Ani bojo kinawaya, bidoya bematsi benis, nidijnakas, bawati nidonjiba, makwa and dodem, ojube nishnabe kwe and dao. My name is Jessica Bolduc, and I come from Bawatin, which is Sault Ste. Marie. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. These familiar lyrics, a little piece of Montreal, made their way to Greece this past weekend, spoken to a crowd of almost 60 international changemakers at the Art of Hosting Athens training. I was one of 3 people traveling from Turtle Island to explore through dialogue what moves us to take our place in the world during this time of chaos, complexity, and collapse. In times of chaos, complexity, and collapse, there sure are a lot of cracks, and I couldn't think of a better anthem for our time together. It is in Athens where I met Abdul Jabbar al-Suhaili, big name, small guy, huge heart. An actor, director, and screenwriter who inspires and educates, bringing people facing crisis together using the arts. Abdul Jabbar joined us from Yemen, a country that knows chaos all too well. He uses his gift as a cultural activist and storyteller to bring attention to the situation in Yemen, to shine some light in the cracks, make people laugh, and to challenge injustice in his country. In 2015, he helped organize a stand-up comedy festival called War Comedy, which attracted large crowds under the slogan, "We create life while others create war." Because if you're going to die, you might as well die laughing, he said. For 3 years, Yemen has been at war. According to the UN, it's the world's worst man-made humanitarian disaster. More than 9,200 people have been killed and over 52,000 injured since March of 2015, with unrelenting violations of international humanitarian law against civilians. About 75% of the population, 22.2 million people, are in need of humanitarian assistance, not knowing where their next meal is coming from, and many, especially children, are considered at risk of starvation. And while foreign aid is pouring in to feed the people, very little aid is coming to support work like Abdul Jabbar's, which is about feeding the soul through the arts, providing hope and vision for the future. More than 3 million people have been forced to flee from their homes in the past 3 years, many who remain displaced like Abdul Jabbar, his wife, and 2 young children. The situation in Yemen is complex, impacted by an internal and regional politics, Western influences, and conflicting worldviews. And the people of Yemen are caught in the middle of this crisis. Though I had heard of the war in Yemen, I was touched deeply through Abdul Jabbar and began to wonder how I could be an ally. And then I remembered I'm giving a Walrus talk this week, and I don't want to talk about Canada 150 anymore. I was talking to a live audience, recorded and shared hopefully thousands of times, and by giving up some of my time using the platforms that I have, perhaps I can for a moment capture the attention of Canadians who might be called to act, to use my privilege to center a voice that is literally dying to be heard, to demonstrate allyship in real time. Despite our geographic distance, we are now connected through relationship, and I have a responsibility to that relationship. Tonight, I'm not going to speak about Canada 150. Canada is in a crisis. And this crisis is at the heart of what moved me to be in Athens. These 2 past weeks, the Indigenous community watched in horror as Canada's colonial systems, primarily the legal system, failed the families and communities of Colton Boushie and Tina Fontaine. What these decisions are saying to Indigenous youth and to Canadians is that our lives don't matter. Let that sink in. There is so much despair across the country right now, and if there is any hope of real reconciliation, it's fading fast. Despite the pain, the Indigenous people will continue to do better and to be better, to resist and hope, because we hold love for our relations at the center of what we do and why we do it. And we believe in a different relationship with Canada, We still believe in a different relationship. And we need Canadians to believe this too, to do better and to be better. Despite a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, this country continues to fail in its responsibility to the relationship with Indigenous peoples. The situation here is also complex, impacted by regional, provincial, federal, international politics, Western influences, and conflicting worldviews. And Indigenous youth are at the center of our crisis. With these truths, the Canadian identity is crumbling beneath us, and those who have something to lose, be it power or influence or control, are trying desperately to patch the cracks before something can grow. In Greek, the word crisis means the mental process that leads to a decision or choice. That's what's next for Canada. Canada, you have a decision, a choice to make, to shift your consciousness. What can you do with your time and your agency, the platforms and resources that you have, the power you yield to make sure not one more Indigenous life is lost? Change will come if we grow it together. In my work with the 4 Hours Youth Movement, we use the Ojibwe word Wadok to describe our allies. Wadok are people who are always willing to do the hard work, and they're always willing to help, bringing balance and joy in difficult times for community. Being an ally is not a static state. It is not a badge you wear or a title you give yourself. It is a process that shifts and shapes with new experiences of relationship and personal growth. An active process of change grounded in humility, generosity, and compassion. Allies are people who are willing to educate themselves and others, who will honor our full range of emotions, our sadness, our grief, and our rage, and work through the fear, the vulnerability, and discomfort that goes hand in hand with their imperfect offerings, so the seeds of change can germinate through the cracks. Miigwech.